and Decode TinyURL. So for this problem, we are giving a TinyURL. So it is a sorting service where you enter a URL such as Leetcode problems design TinyURL, and we're gonna return a sort URL. So it's gonna be tinyurl.com something with something. So we're gonna design such kind of pattern. So if this is our original URL, so we're gonna encode it to this sorter URL, and for the sorter URL, and we can decode it to the longer URL. So this is the basic idea. So there's no restriction on how you encode and decode algorithm should work. You just need to ensure that a URL can be encoded to a TinyURL, and the TinyURL can be decoded to the original URL. So it doesn't matter how you're gonna encode or decode it. You just need to have such kind of map. Yeah, but definitely we cannot return directly. So for example, we're gonna return a longer URL and we're gonna return a shorter URL. You cannot be so lazy. So you just return the variables, because this is shorter URL, so my map is a longer URL, and if I'm asking the decoding for the shorter URL, I'm gonna return the same URL. Of course it works, but this is not what we are asking for. We should not solve the problem like this. Yeah. So we have to use some encoding or decoding skills. Normally it's gonna be a map. So for Python, we're gonna use a hash table to have such kind of map. Yeah. So we have the code and the class. We have code C class and encode and decode method. And basically we're gonna use those two methods to have the encoding and decoding. So I'm gonna use let me just define init, and from the init I'm gonna define a hash table, so a dictionary, and I'm gonna define an integer I gonna be starting from 0. So this is how I gonna design it. So I'm gonna design something like tinyurl.com with a slash of 1, with a slash of 2, something like that. So for each time of the encoding, I'm gonna have the different numbers. It's gonna be starting from 1, 2, 3 until a big number, but each time it's gonna be different. So in this way, I'm gonna have the k-value pairs of the mapping. So for example, for the value of 1, I'm gonna have a mapping of the longer URL. And then, if I'm doing the decoding of the shorter URL, I can find that value 1. I'm gonna put the value 1 at the end of the URL. So let's just start coding. So the idea is that from the beginning, I'm gonna update the self.I, gonna plus equal to 1, and then I'm gonna prepare the hash table. And self.I gonna equal to this longer URL, and I need to return my final URL. Yeah. So this kind of k-value pairs mapping. So for me, so this value is 1 currently. For k equal to 1, I have the longer URL. So from here, I'm gonna return the shorter URL. So according to my idea, I'm gonna encode it like this maybe. Yeah. So let me just encode it maybe like this. So I'm gonna plus something with a 1 with so I'm gonna plus this one. I'm gonna plus a string of self.I. So this is my idea. I'm gonna put a number at the end of the sorter URL. So while I'm decoding, definitely I can find that number. Yeah. So from here, I'm gonna find that number. So how can I find it? So the index I, I'm gonna use the sorter URL dot rfind. So in Python we can use rfind to find the last slash from the right side. And then I'm gonna use integer. So let me use the index maybe. It's gonna be let me just use number maybe. So the number gonna be the integer of the sorter URL, and inside it's gonna be I plus 1. Yeah. So this is gonna be the number. Now what are we gonna do? We just need to find the we just need to find the longer URL, and we're gonna return that longer URL. How can we return that? We're gonna use the hash table. So inside we can directly use the number. So for example, this number for this one is gonna be 1 for the first encoding. So this area is gonna be a 1, and then we find that 1, and we find the longer URL. So this is the basic idea. Something wrong? So the code say object has no attribute I. What is wrong? Yeah, let me just try to print out the self.I. I will to check why it is wrong. Yeah, it seems I cannot print it. Did I do something definition? I did the wrong definition. Let me just redefine it. Init and self.d and self.I gonna equal to 1, gonna equal to 0 or 1, it doesn't matter. Yeah, now this time works. I don't know which areas is wrong, but I just rewrite it. Let me maybe go back to check why I did it wrong. I don't know. Yeah, definitely I don't know. Oh, this is init. This is not init. I did some wrong. I did a typo. Yeah, this is why. Yeah, now let me try to submit it. As you can see, it works. Now let me submit it to check. Yeah, as you can see, it passed for all testing cases, and at least we need to use some encoding or decoding to solve the problem. We cannot return a longer URL or short URL directly, otherwise definitely it will not work. I think that's all about it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.